Welcome to the Immersion Zone. Today we're looking at what ISO standards mean for dive professionals. It is not just about training standards, but what are ISO standards? Who writes them? Which ones matter to dive professionals? Can they help us provide a better quality experience to scuba divers? Let's dive in.
Have you ever stopped to think about what really makes scuba diving work? I mean, that feeling, right? Exploring underwater, the
Mhm.
adventure. It's amazing. And the people who teach it or run the dive shops, real passion there. But, underneath all that adventure, there's this whole complex layer of standards, certifications. It's quite something. So today we're doing a deep dive into ISO standards, specifically how they apply to scuba diving pros and dive businesses. You probably know about things like your open water diver card, right? But what about the rules, the global benchmarks that cover the services, the training, even the environmental side of things?
Exactly. And that's our mission here. We're going to unpack these ISO standards. We'll look
Okay.
at how they're defined globally, but then, and this is where it gets interesting, we'll explore a pretty critical take on how they're used in the dive world. This comes from an article by the Business of Diving Institute. We want to pull out the key bits for you so you get not just what they are, but, why they matter and maybe some surprising things about how the industry works.
Okay, let's start broad then, before we can get to diving
Yeah.
specifically. What exactly are ISO standards generally?
Right. So ISO, that's the International Organization for Standardization. They create these standards, which are basically blueprints, best practices agreed upon internationally. And they aren't just pulled out of thin air. They're developed by groups of experts from all over the world, part of what they call technical committees. These folks negotiate everything, the scope, definitions, the actual content of the standard. It's a whole process.
Ah, okay. So they're meant to be these global, widely accepted benchmarks, make sure everyone's kind of on the same page, quality-wise, safety-wise,
Right.
like a common language.
That's the idea, precisely.
Yeah.
Consistency, recognition worldwide. That's the goal.
Right. You mentioned a twist,
Yeah.
especially for the dive industry. Our source material, the Business of Diving Institute article, seems to have some strong opinions here.
Yeah, this is where it gets really thought-provoking. The main point raised is this. The committees that actually write the ISO standards for diver training levels, they're usually comprised of representatives from dive training agencies. That's a direct quote. Which means, according to the article, what we see in those ISO standards tends to reflect how dive training agencies perceive the world for their own benefit.
Wow, okay, so hold on. If the agencies writing the standards have a vested interest, does the article suggest they're like actively holding back progress? Or just maybe not pushing things forward if it rocks their boat?
Ah,
It says, we cannot count on scuba-related ISO standards to raise the bar on quality or allow for different ways of providing a quality scuba diving experience beyond peddling cards. Just selling certifications, basically,
Oh.
with a pyramidal series of diver training levels. It's quite a critique.
It is a strong claim, definitely. And it highlights potential conflicts of interest, doesn't it? The article even points to another piece, rebreather training. Are we certifying ourselves into extinction from In-Depth magazine as an example of similar issues? It argues that the way these ISO standards for training are written helps ensure the big dive training agencies remain at the top of the food chain, while dive professionals work below minimum wages in dive centers cutting corners. It's a pretty stark view of the industry dynamics.
That's certainly a critical take. But we should be clear, right? Even with these criticisms, the article and what we're doing here is still about giving you that useful list of the standards.
Yeah.
Because, like it or not, these are the benchmarks out there. If you're a dive pro, running a shop, teaching, you operate within this framework. So understanding them is still crucial.
Absolutely. Knowing the landscape is key, whatever your perspective on it.
Okay, so we've got the big picture, the critique.
Yeah.
Let's make it practical. For you listening, maybe you're planning a dive trip, maybe you own a dive center. How do these ISO things actually, show up? What are the specific standards we're talking about?
Right, let's break it down. First up, scuba diving operations. These are standards about the service itself. A key one is ISO 24803. That's requirements for recreational diving providers. It focuses on the quality of service gear conditions, staff professionalism, safety briefings, the whole experience.
Okay, so that's about the dive center or boat operator.
Exactly. Then there's ISO 24416, which is all about environmentally sustainable practices. This isn't just talk, it means real actions like managing waste, conserving energy, protecting the reefs. Super important. And there are others too for specific things like ISO 13289 for snorkeling trips, making sure even simple snorkeling is safe. There is ISO 101.1 for introductory dive programs, discover scuba type things, even standards for artificial dive dive sites, handling gas cylinders safely, like ISO 11625 and ISO 12109 for the connections. It gets quite detailed.
It really does. Okay, what about the training itself, the certifications?
Yeah, the core dive training levels. This is where the ISO 24801 series comes in. Part 1 is for a level 1 supervised diver, think PADI scuba diver. Part 2 is level 2, the autonomous diver, that's your standard open water diver. And part 3 is level 3, the dive leader, like a dive master.
So it standardizes what those levels actually mean globally.
That's the intent. And similarly, there's the ISO 24802 series for scuba instructor training, defining different instructor levels, again, aiming for consistency. Then you get into more specialized stuff. Rebreather diver training has its own set. These cover different depths and decompression levels, from no deco up to 100 meters, plus an ISO for rebreather instructors.
Wow, so even the really technical stuff is covered.
Pretty much. There's even a series for scientific divers, ISO 8804. And interestingly, they're developing a new one, ISO CD 25325, for citizen science divers. Shows how things evolve.
Citizen science, huh? That's cool.
Yeah. And finally, under other dive training programs, you've got standards for things like nitrox diving, that's ISO 11107. Also ISO 13293 for gas blender training, and even one, ISO 21417, specifically on environmental awareness training for divers. So it really covers a lot of ground.
Okay, that's a comprehensive look at the diving side. But running a dive operation, it's more than just the dives, isn't it? It's a business.
Yeah.
How do those broader ISO standards, the non-diving ones, fit in?
That's a really important point because, yes, it is a business, and those general ISO standards are crucial under quality. Operations and customer experience, you have the foundational ISO 9000 family about quality management fundamentals. But the big one for businesses is ISO 9001. It sets out the requirements for a quality management system. This is massive for small businesses, like most dive centers.
So what does that actually mean for a dive shop? Like paperwork?
It's more than just paperwork, though that's part of it. It's about having clear, reliable processes for everything. Equipment maintenance, booking procedures, how you handle feedback or complaints. It ensures you're delivering consistent quality, building trust with your customers. It's about being reliable.
Makes sense. And what about the environment? You mentioned a specific diving one, but are there broader business standards too?
Absolutely. Sustainability is huge now. So under sustainable tourism and environment, there's ISO 2611, which gives good practices for sustainability, specifically in adventure tourism. Very relevant. There's also ISO 2114014, sustainability and accommodation, which applies to dive resorts. But probably the most significant one is ISO 14001. That's the standard for environmental management systems. It helps businesses actively take proactive measures to minimize our environmental footprint. We're talking structured ways to manage waste, save water, reduce energy use, a systematic approach.
So it helps you walk the talk on being eco-friendly.
Exactly. And there are related guidelines, too, if businesses want to go deeper into environmental management.
Okay, so it's pretty clear these ISO standards, well, they touch basically every aspect of scuba diving, from how you learn, to the dive itself, how the business runs, even its environmental impact. We've seen why they're needed as global benchmarks, but also heard that critical perspective on how they get made and maybe what interests they serve.
Right, and I think that's the crucial balance to understand. It's not just about ticking boxes for compliance. As the Business of Diving Institute source suggests, the bigger picture is about everyone working together to, as they put it, raise the bar in the industry, meeting what today's divers expect in terms of quality, safety, and sustainability.
So thinking about that, for you listening, maybe you're a diver picking a destination, an instructor planning a course, or a dive shop owner making decisions. With this understanding of ISO standards, both their purpose and the critiques around them, what specific things can you do? How can you help raise the bar in real practical ways that go beyond just the certification card and actually boost safety, quality, and sustainability in the amazing world of diving? Something to think about.
Thanks for being with us today. Please subscribe wherever you're listening to this or at businessofdiving.com. Dive safe.